Hunting for Answers is a production of the Black Effect Podcast Network and iHeartRadio. Welcome to Hunting for Answers, a true crime podcast. I'm your host, Hunter. On Memorial Day weekend in Atlanta, Georgia, a young mother disappears. The last person known to be with her would later tell police she left after an argument. But when her family started looking for her, the question started almost immediately. No phone, no purse, no sign she planned to leave, and her child was still there. More than 15 years later, she has never been found. And what happened in those final hours is still unknown. Today, her sister is sharing what she remembers, what she learned, and why she believes this story is not over. This is the story of Athena Curry. Before she became a missing person, she was a young woman navigating life. Athena was born in Portland, Oregon. She later moved to Atlanta during her senior year of high school to live with her sister. By 2011, she was raising her 16-month-old son, making plans, and trying to figure out what came next.
Athena Joy Curry, that's her full name, and her middle name captures the essence of her, just joy. She was the baby child out of my dad's 8 kids. She was a single mother. She was 20 years old at the time of her disappearance. She was a single mom to her only lovely son, King. And she was just, navigating life. She wanted to become a nurse, and she just was trying to find her way.
Her sister, Aisha Curry, says Athena was the kind of person people leaned on.
And I just always call her my road dog. She'll be the sister or the best friend that's going to keep your secrets, for you. She's like the ride or die friend who would fight for her friends, who would stick up for her friends.
She was part of people's lives. And when she suddenly wasn't, people noticed. Looking back, Aisha believes one relationship shaped much of what was happening in Athena's life: the father of her child.
On one night, May 27, 2011, after a really turbulent, unhealthy relationship, she vanished.
Athena remembers these as more than isolated incidents. To her, they were part of a pattern.
He tasered her with a taser gun at the hospital in the cafeteria while she was waiting for me to pick her and now my son, but her son up.
She says there were other incidents.
A pedestrian saw it, reported they saw him punch her in the face. They reported that, and he got arrested.
One memory, in particular, has stayed with Aisha.
But he choked her till she blacked out. And her eyes were like, the bloodshot where, the capillaries broke for the choke. And she told me in that moment that her life flashed before her eyes, and all she thought about was, oh my goodness, my sister and my baby.
Aisha says even after experiences like that, her sister did not see herself as someone in danger.
I don't think that she identified herself as a victim. I think she always thought that she was a warrior, and because of that relationship she had with her son's father was very turbulent because she'd fought back. She wasn't going to be a victim. She fought back, but that's what's added fuel to the fire.
In the days leading up to her disappearance, Aisha noticed a change.
There was some depression for sure.
For a time, Aisha believed there had been distance between them. But then, one conversation changed that.
All of a sudden, out the blue, she says to me, this is the weekend that she ends up disappearing. She says to me, hey, Yusuf and I are going to get an apartment together.
She did not even know they were back in contact. The news came out of nowhere, but that weekend, Athena went to see him. She saw her sister one last time. It was late, unexpected, and brief.
She popped back in. It was late in the evening, and she had a bandana on, like in a like a hoodie, and she ran in, and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" Because it was so late. And I said, "Where's the baby?" And she said, "Oh, I got a ride from Atlanta here. I came to get some more clothes. The baby's in the car." And like it was so brief in and brief out.
After what she says she learned, that memory took on a different meaning.
There was a huge fight that he dragged her up the street by her hair, pulled her hair out. I guess he got stabbed in the hand. So this is what I found out after that. But she did not want me to see the bruises on her face and her hair pulled out, which is why she had the bandana on. So she ran in, ran out.
What had seemed like a quick stop became a memory Aisha says she never looked at the same way again. That was the last time she saw her sister. A few days later, Aisha picked up the phone just to check in.
Friday comes, and I'm like, I can't believe she's still hanging out with him because I know they're volatile. And I was thinking, I can't. So that's why I decided to call. Well, I was actually talking to my mom on the phone. And my mom said, I just don't have a good feeling. She said she had a bad feeling about King. And I said, which is her son. And I said, Mom, I actually have a bad feeling about Athena because, she's been with Yusuf for a few days. This is not like her to be gone this many days with him because of the volatility of the relationship. And I called her and I spoke with her. And that was the question I asked her, which was, I'm just calling to make sure Yusuf haven't put you in the grave somewhere.
It was a comment rooted in concern. Looking back, those words took on a different weight. And then that was the last time you spoke with her?
Yes.
What emerged in public reports and information shared with police was this. The last person known to be with Athena told police she was gone around 3 a.m. He said she left after an argument. Police have said that argument may have started after she found texts or photos from another woman. Those same reports described her as leaving without her phone, her purse, or her child. For her family, that account raised immediate questions.
I knew if she was going to leave, she was not going to leave her son with him. That I knew factually.
Then there was the timing. Reporting shows several days passed before her family was told she was missing. By the time Aisha realized something was wrong, those first hours had already passed. And by then, she was already trying to get people to understand why she was so concerned.
She's not a minor. Does she have any mental health conditions? No. Any drug use? No. Well, then she's free to leave on her own. And I said, no, and now I'm trying to explain the volatility of the relationship, which if I have a point to make to anybody is make a paper trail, call the police. Don't try to protect your loved ones because the police won't do a lot if they don't see a domestic violence paper trail in the system. But thank God for the pedestrian who did make that one report when they witnessed it, because that's what made the police say, well, they pulled up the name. They saw that there was some domestic violence report, and they said, we'll go do a courtesy check for you.
And when police went to the house, Athena was not there.
And now the hardest part was calling my parents to say, Mom and Dad, Athena's missing. Yeah. That part was like making the true phone call to say she's gone, because that's what I believed at that time. And I remember my mom in the background screaming, what do you mean she's missing? And my dad was trying to calm her down.
As the case moved forward, Aisha says she still has questions about how the investigation unfolded.
It was such a late start and how they chose to navigate the investigation. Not a lot of forensics were done in that house. That was kind of like a squatter home anyways. that ended up getting bought by some people shortly. Once Athena went missing, he was gone out that house within, I don't know, a couple weeks, if that. And so now that house got bought by some people. It got painted. It got lived in. And I remember the police telling me, well, if there was a crime scene or any evidence, it's all tainted now.
Investigators continued following leads.
I know they called him down for questioning, Yusuf down. So a few things that helped. The media helped. They wanted to interview him. In the beginning, he was agreeing to do interviews with the media. And the investigator who's assigned to her case told me they asked Yusuf to come down to make statements and reports, and he was coming down making official statements and reports, but he declined to do a polygraph test. They told me that they hadn't charged him with anything, and they didn't want to press too hard. They said because at any point they press too hard, he can lawyer up, and at that point their line of questioning could be ceased. So they just said they wanted to keep some type of open rapport with him. That way he'd be willing to continue to come down and speak with them.
As people started talking, one account stood out from someone Aisha says later spoke with police.
Another witness came forward to the police, and it's all documented, because that guy, I guess, used to threaten his life, which made him now go to report what he saw, that Athena and Yusuf were in the house fighting, and he can hear her choking her in the back room because he says she's making the gurgling, choking sounds, and she was saying, "Stop choking me."
For Aisha, some of the most important details came from somewhere else.
I learned a lot of things through some of the reporters who would speak with the police, who would then follow with me, and they would tell me some things that the police told them that they never. I was like out of the loop with a lot of it.
The more information reached her, the more questions she had. But even with what investigators had learned, the case remained unresolved.
They said that they have a whole bunch of little pebbles, but not the big boulder for, arrest, prosecution, or anything.
And it kept coming back to one thing. Athena had not been found. 15 years later, her name is still listed on the Atlanta Police Missing Persons page. At one point, a phone call made it seem the case might be moving forward.
Let's say 4 or 5 years ago, I got a call from some officer, and he said, "Hey, I'm Officer so-and-so from Atlanta Police Department." He said, "I'm just following up on old cases," and I thought it was a cold case detective. And he says, "I just need to know, has your sister been found?" And at that point, we're talking about it's been 10 years. And I said, "Has she been found?" "No, she has not been found." And so I got all excited thinking, "Oh my God, so you're a cold case detective? What's going on?" He goes, "No, they're going through old cases to know which ones have been closed and which ones are still open." And he was just, so he can just maybe, clear up the database. And he just, and I asked him, "Please, can you assign this to a cold case detective? Can you do whatever?" I begged, I gave him all the information. I sent him everything I knew, like the people I spoke to. And he said, "Okay," and never, ever, ever heard from anybody.
After all this time, no one has ever been charged in connection with Athena's disappearance. Yet the questions are still there. What happened in those final hours? What evidence led investigators to classify this case as a homicide? What has never been said publicly?
I just wonder, could there be more? Like, I feel like if somebody opens her case, there's going to be that, evidence somewhere in that case file that somebody has overlooked, and they can follow up with leads, and maybe people are willing to talk now.
And most of all, where is Athena Curry now? After years of searching for answers, Aisha has never changed what she believes happened.
In my heart, without a doubt, I believe that Yusuf killed my sister.
15 years later, Athena is still missed. And what remains goes beyond the questions.
My takeaway for anybody who's listening, report abuse, um, speak life to your loved ones, hug them. Like they always say, you never know the last time you're going to get an opportunity to see them. I never knew when Athena walked out that door, that was the last time I'm going to see my baby sister. You know, set healthy boundaries um, with your loved ones to protect them and protect yourself. And that just, Athena, she's loved and she's missed.
Our thoughts continue to be with Athena Curry's family and loved ones. Sharing Athena's story helps keep the focus on what her family still doesn't know. For more cases and updates, follow Hunting for Answers. You can also connect with us through our Facebook group and find us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And as always, if there's a story you believe deserves attention, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us for another episode. Until next time. Hunting for Answers is a production of the Black Effect Podcast Network. For more podcasts from the Black Effect Podcast Network, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.